Peter Burns, Aaron Murray. How about the Florida Gators waking up this morning pretty happy to walk off against Danny Cannell's Florida State Seminoles. I love Tuesday, the Tuesday midweek games. Some of them are fantastic, Aaron, because a lot of them are, you're playing Western Carolina. You're playing somebody that's kind of, underneath the radar a little bit, trying to get right for the SEC series. But then you have some of these great rivalries, in Florida versus FSU is one of them. Florida State's actually been playing some pretty good baseball, and you end up getting a walk-off victory. So I know Sully's got to be happy with that. Good times in Gainesville, and that's where we find Zach Cohen. You can follow him on Twitter, Zach Cohen FB on Twitter, doing draft stuff, talking about football. But even baseball season, man, it is going pretty well. I'd imagine it's a good damn time to be in Gainesville, Florida, correct?
Oh, it's always a great time to be up here, guys. I know it's a little tough, I guess, with the expectations placed on the baseball team, but that's your fault for expecting them to live up to such the hype. So yesterday's game was a great one, and getting it over FSU, oh, man, what a great way to start the week.
It is. As we start getting closer and closer to, obviously, SEC baseball tournament, and Tim Walton's done a great job with softball, but let's talk about Dan Mullen's squad. So much has been made about, Kyle Trask and the job that he had done. Is it going to be Emory Jones? What does a quarterback room look like in Gainesville coming up this year for the Gators?
Well, let me preface, and I think you guys know this more than anything, there will always be this unfair expectation, this unfair ceiling for any Gators quarterback to reach it. So forget the guy who just set single-season records over at UF. Kyle Trask, man, he was something else. Living up to those shoes is going to be a task in itself. But even Trask, had Tim Tebow's shadow bearing down on him. So even if Emory Jones or Anthony Richardson come in next year, they're going to have to put up quite the season to make Gator fans feel satisfied. With that said, it'll probably be Emory. Now, Emory and Anthony Richardson, Richardson, a homegrown Gainesville star, he's entering redshirt freshman year for the team. He has looked maybe even a little bit better than Emory from what I've heard from spring ball, but both of them have kind of slowly started improving. Emory apparently has been taking filling up the leadership role a little bit better. So I'd be surprised if Emory wasn't the guy going into next year, knowing Mullen's coaching philosophy and everything. But both quarterbacks seem to have a pretty promising upside so far.
How's the offense change? Obviously with Emory in there, but between the two quarterbacks, is there two different systems that would need to be run? Obviously we know Emory, to me, is more of what Dan wants. Obviously I thought Dan last year with Kyle was some of his best coaching, to take a quarterback that's not mobile, that's more of a pocket passer, and to do what he did with that offense. I was like, damn, this is because that's not Dan's comfort zone. Emory's more his comfort zone, his ability to do the RPOs, the zone reads, have a more mobile quarterback. Is there a difference between these quarterbacks when it comes to that? And then are we seeing this offense change a little bit compared to what we saw last year?
You'll definitely see it change a little bit more, I think, in terms of who's getting the ball in their hands. That's going to be a little bit different because, you're going to have Emory or Richardson. This isn't a knock on Trask's mobility or his ability to run the RPOs and zone reads and things like that. But like you said, Emory is more of Mullen's flavor. You've looked at the quarterbacks who he's worked with in the past, like Prescott, even going back to Tebow, right? That's kind of his comfort zone. So you're going to see more of a run-heavy offense. I'm sorry, guys. I think the pass-heavy days of the Florida Gators offense from last season may be a bit numbered, no pun intended, but I think that you're going to see a lot more run-focused plays, a lot more RPOs. That's just something that Emory and even AR can do pretty well, and Mullen, he loves that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back to days of, I guess obviously Dak and even Alex Smith to a certain extent back way back in the day, and of course Tebow whenever he was calling plays under Urban. When you say obviously they lose Kadarius Toney, you're losing Kyle Pitts. We'll talk NFL draft in a little bit, but who's the next guys? Who's the next wide receivers that Dan Mullen's going to make stars of down in Gainesville?
Oh yeah, well you first might want to look at some guys who are already getting playing time last year, like Jake Copeland or Justin Shorter, but no, I think the guy who's going to really step up into that kind of Z-type role in the offense is Xavier Henderson. Gator royalty already. He's apparently looked pretty darn good during the spring season. And that really hasn't been a surprise. He did see a couple snaps last season. Didn't wow you really, but everything I've heard out of spring ball so far is this guy's the next man up. So even if he doesn't take that initial step this year, he's someone who will be balling in a Gators uniform for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Defense. There were obviously we remember last year the tussle on the sidelines with Mullen and Grantham. Is that side of the ball going to be a little bit better? Because obviously, if you're not going to be scoring all the points you did last year offensively, as we transition to more of this running offense and less big plays through the air, can they slow some teams down? Which is going to be tough because offenses in the SEC are just getting better and better.
Well, I certainly hope so. Like you said it best. They have to keep up with the changing tides of the SEC. All of a sudden, it's an offensive game plan down there. But I think, and it kind of is looking that way, the defense has really started to put on a show lately in spring practice, which is good because that's Florida Gator football. This is a defensive team, the defensive vibe, if you will, down in the swamp. And a lot of players on the defense have started to really make names for themselves. So, yeah, I really think the defense is going to kind of get back to that Gator standard that Mullen and even Grantham kind of hold that side of the ball up to. I'm expecting it. I'll be really disappointed if it doesn't happen, and kind of begs some questions. What will happen if the defense can't return to a post-2020 form?
Well, I was going to say, we're joined by Zach Cohen here. Zach Cohen Football covers the Gators and NFL Draft. And yeah, if it's not, then Todd Grantham's on his way out. I think there were some people thought that Grantham might have been on his way out. I think him and Dan said, no, let's just change things. But if it doesn't change, he will be looking for a new position shortly. All right, let's talk. I'm curious about Gators in the draft. And it feels Kyle Pitts to me is one of the most intriguing candidates because I can't figure out where he falls to, and fall being a relative term because he's probably at least going to be I would imagine a top 10 pick. What's the latest that we're hearing about him then?
Oh, yeah. I would be shocked if he falls past the Dolphins at 6. He is starting to look like, I think the two spots you commonly see him mocked at the earliest, number 4 to the Falcons. There's rumors that they could trade out for a team that needs a quarterback. Heck, there's rumors they could take a quarterback. I think if it's not going to be a quarterback, the first man up on their draft board would be Kyle Pitts. With that said, he's a great fit at 5 to the Bengals. They could kind of use him in their vertical offense they got going on there, pair him with Joe Burrow. But I think the Dolphins would be so intrigued by him. And you kind of see everyone saying, oh, but they already have a tight end, a former Penn State tight end, Mike Gesicki. But Pitts is a rare breed. He is the unicorn. A few weeks ago on my podcast, I compared him. My player comparison to him was Captain America, simply just because he seems like he was built in a lab. This man can do it all. So I would be shocked if he falls past a team like the Dolphins.
So what? I mean, Aaron, when we look at it, what we figure we got Trevor coming in at 1, Zach Wilson number 2, and then the draft. Aaron, I mean, if Aaron Murray is a GM, who are you taking at 3 if you're San Francisco?
Well, it looks like they're going to take they're taking a quarterback. I don't doubt that. Mac to me is way too early at 3, and I don't want to take up his time not talking Florida Gator stuff, but I don't see Mac as a top 5 pick, but everything right now indicates that he's going to go. But I think in this day and age, with the ability to use a tight end, it's my favorite position, and Kyle Pitts is my favorite player in this draft. I think you can just do so much with him. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, look at Travis Kelce last year, almost led the league in receptions, for goodness sakes, as a tight end. And Pitts is faster and bigger. I just think he's a matchup nightmare that you can have so much fun with. So I love him. I think I'm with you. He's a top 5 pick. In any other year, if this wasn't such a quarterback-needy league, he may be the first pick in the draft. He's the best player, best mismatch in all of college football this past year. But we'll save that talk for another time. Kyle Trask, we talk about quarterbacks, and we know there's a bunch that are going to go off the board early, some probably earlier than they need to, but still, it's a quarterback-needy league. Where does Kyle Trask end up round-wise? I see him as a 4th or 5th round talent, but there's, if you lose 5 quarterbacks in the first round off the board, he may jump into the second round.
Definitely. This is such an interesting point to make. because I was the same boat with you. 4th, 5th round, we all know how the NFL prioritizes quarterbacks, especially ones who just had record-breaking seasons, right? But what I heard out of UF Pro Day, I had some people telling me who were there saying that scouts said they would not be surprised if Trask would end up sliding into the back end of the first round. And that took me by surprise, too. Listen, Trask has some promising traits. He can definitely be a solid starter in the right system, but I wasn't even considering first round. And the last time I did that, it was in September or October, and I think that buzz kind of died down. And then Peter King came out earlier last week saying he was starting to think the same thing. So you kind of take with that what you want, but I'm still sitting around the 3rd to 4th round. I guess I wouldn't be too surprised if a team took him in the back end of the 2nd round, but that's just what I've been hearing as opposed to what I'm thinking.
So for those that you want to get more of the coverage of what you do for Draft Network and then Gator stuff, Zach, go ahead and plug what you do, my man.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So you can follow me on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok now, sad to say. Whatever floats your boat, at Zach Cohen, FB, ZACHCOHEN, FB. And then I also work for the Draft Network, a non-stop shop, 24/7. Football's 33rd front office, we like to say. It's more than just the draft, though. It's everything football, college football, but you guys need to go check it out for the NFL draft. We got some big plans coming up, too, for the big event. So stay tuned for that. If you're a big draft fan like me, you're definitely going to go want to check out thedraftnetwork.com.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a good one. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Cohen, FB. Zach, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, always, guys. You guys got the dream job. So anytime you want to have me back on, I will always be here.
We appreciate it, man. Thanks for giving us some good insight there in Gainesville. That is Zach Cohen FB over on Twitter.